Good evening, and welcome to the Spotlight on the Candidates Q&A. This Spotlight on the Candidates Q&A is hosted and facilitated by Southeast MNEA Retired and is co-sponsored by the following current and retired education unions and organizations: MNEA, MSTA, ESP, MRTA, and PSP. My name is Sharon Giesler with the MNEA Retired, and I will be the facilitator for this Q&A. This Q&A is not a district event, and the district does not endorse or support specific candidates. For a bit of background, each year, SGNEA prepares a written questionnaire for board candidates to complete. These questionnaires are shared with employees and the community. This year, with a larger number of candidates running, it was decided that a recording could offer the community more ease of access to the candidates' stances and backgrounds. The purpose of this spotlight on the candidates is to offer our community an opportunity to learn about the candidates' stances on issues impacting the school district. All 6 candidates were invited to participate in this evening's event. This evening, we have the following candidates present in ballot order: Jamie Ballew, Larry Pfaff Jr., Joshua Gettinger, and Brad Arnold. We would like to thank these board candidates for participating in this spotlight on the candidates Q&A. Our sponsoring groups and parent groups were given the opportunity to submit possible questions in advance of the Q&A. This video will be posted in its entirety, but each question will also be posted separately for ease of viewing. The video will be posted on the district's YouTube at SG Dragon TV, as well as the district's website and social media platforms. I would like to now introduce our high school seniors who will be posing the questions to the candidates. Paul Ahrens, Abby Moore, and Andrew Maget. Thank you for volunteering to participate in this recording event. And now, on to our guidelines for the evening. We ask our candidates that they please stay on topic. If you would like to discuss a topic that is not included in the questions, you may do so during your closing statement. Please do not interrupt other candidates' answers. Please do not engage in any personal attacks against fellow candidates or Q&A moderators. Due to time constraints and in order to allow candidates to answer all questions, we will stick strictly to our time frame for answers. Any factual inaccuracies mentioned in candidates' answers will be noted in the video for viewers. Here is the layout of the Q&A. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for opening statements, and answers will be given in ballot order. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to answer each question posed, but candidates do not have to fill this entire time if their answer does not require it. For the first question, the first candidate in ballot order will answer first, then the second candidate will answer second, then third, and so on. For the second question, the second candidate in ballot order will answer first, then the third candidate, and so on until the first candidate on the ballot order answers last. This way, each candidate will have a chance to be the first and last to answer questions. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for closing statements, and answers will be given in reverse ballot order.
Good evening, board candidates. We will start with opening statements. Please share what motivates you to want to become a St. Genevieve County R2 Board of Education member. Please include what in your background leads you to believe that you would be an effective school board member. Jamie Ballew, you are our first candidate in ballot order. Please share with us your opening statement.
Hello, my name is Jamie Naeger Ballew. I'm a lifelong resident of St. Genevieve County. My parents are Ed and Doris Naeger. I graduated from Ballew in 2003, after which I attended Southeast Missouri State University, earning my Bachelor of Science degree in Business Administration with emphasis in accounting. In 2007, I began my career as an accountant at Citizens Electric, where I remain employed. In 2008, I married Matt Ballew, who is a detective for St. Genevieve County Sheriff's Office. Matt's parents are Ronnie and Vicki Ballew of St. Genevieve County. Vicki is a retired Farmington R7. Vicki retired from Farmington R7 after 28 years as a special service paraprofessional. Matt and I have one son, Daniel, who is a third grader at St. Genevieve Elementary. I've worked as an accountant at Citizens Electric for the past 15 years. My responsibilities include preparing monthly financial statements and reports for the Board of Directors, analyzing the budget, cash flow management, and working closely with an outside audit firm on our annual audit. I believe my financial background and in-depth budget experience will be a great asset to the school board. These qualifications will allow me to make sure the district is using the funds it receives effectively to make educational needs to all of our students. In preparing for my possible role as a board member, I have attended the vast majority of board education meetings in 2021 and 2022. I frequently visit the Missouri School Board Associations and the Missouri Department of Elementary and Secondary Education websites and social media pages to stay abreast of current issues and monitor current legislation that could affect our school district. I believe being an active member of the community and volunteering is the most effective way to make our community a better place. I am treasurer of the St. Genevieve Elementary Parent-Teacher Organization, president-elect of the St. Genevieve Rotary Club, and a member of Chamber of Commerce Leadership of St. Genevieve 2022. I have participated in multiple Title I meetings as a parent advocate of St. Genevieve Elementary. I'm a substitute teacher at St. Genevieve Catholic Parish School of Religion and an active member of Sacred Heart Parish in Ozora.
Larry Pfaff, please share with us your opening statement.
My name is Larry Pfaff. I am a lifelong resident of St. John County. I am a 1995 graduate of St. John High School. I'm married to my beautiful wife for 26 years. We have 3 wonderful children. Logan, a graduate of St. John High School 2020. Cole is a current senior, and Brianna is currently an 8th grader. My wife is a registered nurse for St. John County Memorial Hospital. After graduating, I joined the military, joined the Air Force, and did 4 years in the military. I came back to St. John because it was a great place to raise a family and to really have roots since I've been here pretty much all of my life. St. John is a place where you can trust people and enjoy the life that you have here. We as a family, we as a community have the right to be able to have a say in the school board. We definitely need to have more open minds and people that can ask the hard questions. Nobody wants to be that person, and I feel with me being a substitute at this current time and knowing a little bit more in depth of the school district itself, that I would be a great asset to the school board. I believe that the kids need to have that chance to get through everything that we have done and make sure that we can promote the kids to succeed in the future.
Joshua Gettinger, please share with us your opening statement.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you to the unions and organizations for putting this event on. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to come out and speak about myself and learn more about the other candidates. I think it's a great opportunity for our community. As mentioned, my name is Joshua Gettinger. I'm a 2006 graduate of St. Genevieve High School. I then attended Southeast Missouri State University, where I received my bachelor's degree in finance, and then on to Missouri Baptist University, where I received my master's of business administration. I am currently a business intelligence analyst at Edward Jones. I am married to my wife, Katie, who is a kindergarten teacher in the St. Genevieve R2 School District at Bloomsdale Elementary. I have 2 children. Luke is in 2nd grade, and Lincoln will be entering the pre-K program in the fall. I am the son of Dave and Sue Gettinger, and I have 3 siblings, Travis, Jake, and Camry. I'm running for the Board of Education because I believe that every child deserves a right to a quality education. I am a passionate supporter of our local school district And I want to ensure that our board is filled with individuals who want what's best for every single child. I believe there are 3 pillars to a successful board candidate. The first is understanding the needs of our children. The second is to supporting our remarkable faculty and staff. And third, ensuring that our taxes are being distributed in the correct manner and spent in a way that avoids useless spending, as we commonly see. As a father of a student, a husband of a teacher, and a tax payer here in the community, I feel like I'm an ideal candidate for the Board of Education. I believe I'll bring a lot of insights to the board, and I want to ensure that we are providing our students with a 21st century education so they can build a meaningful life. As a member of the Board of Education, I pledge to keep partisan politics out of our schools. My agenda is simple: do what is best for every single child. I'm looking forward to the questions and hoping I can portray the benefits I'll bring to the board. Thank you.
Brad Arnold, please share with us your opening statement.
Good evening. My name is Brad Arnold. I am a 2003 graduate of St. Genevieve High School. I then went on to graduate in 2007 from Southeast Missouri State University with a degree in sport management. I began my employment at the St. Genevieve County Community Center in May of 2007. I currently still work there. I took on the role of executive director in August of 2008, and I've been in that role ever since. I oversee all the day-to-day operations of the community center and everything on our campus, our budget, and all of our staffing. I currently have 2 students in our school district. I have a 2nd grader and a child in kindergarten. I also have a 3rd that will be starting in the fall of 2023. My main interest in what sparked to want to run for the school board really started a couple of years ago with the facility planning committee that eventually led to the Prop SG that's on the ballot this spring. I spent a lot of time sitting in all those meetings with students, parents, faculty, and staff, and other community members, and I learned a lot about our school and the future and the needs that we have now and what we're going to need in the future. And that brought me to this point of wanting to run for the school board to be able to help and assist with not only that plan, but also the rest of what our school has to offer in present and in the future. My role at the community center has gotten me involved with a great deal of community leaders and other community programs, and I feel like the relationships that we build in those activities and other groups is what really helps our community stay as great as it is, and I think I can bring that to the school board and continue doing that on the level of education as well.
And now on to our first question. What do you see as the 3 most pressing issues facing public education? And what is your vision for addressing those? Jamie Ballew, could you please begin this round of answers?
I think our 3 main issues for education in general are going to be, number 1, funding. Specifically for us, our funding problem is partially Wholesome because we are in a battle right now with Wholesome and them not wanting to pay their taxes. We have millions sitting in an escrow account that we have no access to until the courts decide either in our favor or in Wholesome's favor as to who's going to get that tax money or if they're going to even pay that tax money. The other side of the funding issue is that as a school district, we need to make sure that we are using the federal money that we receive and any local tax dollars we receive to the best of our ability to service our students and to pay our teachers well so that we keep high-quality teachers in this district and we recruit high-quality teachers. The next issue I think facing our school district is a bill right now, an open enrollment bill, and on the other side of that is about possible voucher programs. The open enrollment bill that we're looking at right now is going to pit schools against each other, trying to possibly compete for students and for tax dollars.
Larry Pfaff, if you could now answer the question.
Well, as a little bit more than what Jamie said, also is budget, where the money goes. The second thing is we have issues with some of the elementary. We're pushing students through too fast. They're not getting evaluated towards the end of the year to see if they should be pushed to the next level. There's bills in process now, Bill 681 and I believe it's 1076. It's for the reading. The students aren't getting to a level to where they should be pushed to the next level, to the next grade. So we're just kind of basically holding the hands of the students through until they get to junior high and hoping they make it. Stubbing, I see a lot of it. There was fifth graders that still do not know how to read. And it's kind of scary that we're pushing students to this point that they're going to be moving on to middle school without being able to read. Another issue that we currently have is substitutes. And I know that Desi and them, they changed the qualifications to be a sub, but then you're looking at what type of subs are you getting, what are they going to be a sub that is actually going to be able to help? I sub, I go there and I'm there to teach. I'm not there to babysit. So that was a question by the students. Why aren't you up there on your phone? I can't do that. And we need to have subs that can actually teach the students the curriculum.
Joshua Gettinger, please share with us your answer.
I think the biggest issue right now is funding. Across the state of Missouri, Missouri ranks 49th in the nation for funding for public educations, which is astronomical to think about it. And on top of that, 50th for salary pay for teachers. It's getting to the point that it's so bad there are approximately 25% of school districts now who are resorting to a 4-day school week just to save dollars. They don't have to turn the lights on that way. And it's increasing teacher pay per hour, but that's not what our children need. The second thing is the teaching strain, the strains that are placed on our teachers. They're being constantly asked to do more and more with less and less. I can attest to that with my wife being a school teacher. You know, a lot of her plan periods are spent in meetings for IEPs or contacting parents. 20-minute lunches that turn into 15 because you got to get your kid to the classroom. There's just not enough time in the day for our teachers, especially at the elementary level. And the other thing is catching our catching our children up from the COVID-19 pandemic. The reality is those children missed approximately 2.5 months of school, and those 2.5 months of school have played a major part in the development of their educational skills or lack thereof. My wife can attest and say that children are lower now because they missed from March until May. And then on top of that, the online learning, while maybe useful, was not practical. We did not learn properly with online education.
Brad Arnold, if you could now answer the question.
Sure, I agree with a lot of the things these guys said. For my three things facing education in our school district in particular, I think the funding locally and the taxes that are being protested, and in terms of funding, I think also comes with the workforce issue. I see it in my profession, and I think we see it in a lot of other things other than education and healthcare. As people are leaving some of these professions in droves, and we have to find ways to keep them because of what they've went through in the past 2 years and how it's changed. Maybe the mindset of how they're going to teach in the future. I believe that facilities are something that are very important because everything we have is aging every day, so we have to have a plan on how we plan on keeping things up to date, technology-wise, accessibility-wise, safety, security, all those kinds of things. I think they're very important. And then for my third thing, it's just how are we going to come out of this pandemic, and what does that mean for the future of education and how we do things? Is it online learning? Is it shorter work weeks? You know, all those kinds of things have to be considered because there's only so many dollars, as these guys have talked about, to go around, and we have to make best use of those to ensure that each kid is getting the best opportunity to succeed every day.
On to our second question. Legislation establishes state policy for education. To what extent would you like to be involved in legislative activity? What responsibilities do board members have regarding advocacy? Larry Pfaff, could you please begin this round of answers?
Well, as a board member, we should be an advocate for our students and our community at all times. We would have to go to Jeff City and press for the issues that need to be addressed. Just like I was saying before about Bill 681 and 1076, with those two bills together, we would help our students in general to get them through the elementary process, elementary schooling, and get them to better themselves and prepare them for the junior high and high school. With us, as a Board of Education, we have to be the biggest advocate. Other than the parents and the families, we have to be that next step for those kids.
Joshua Gettinger, if you could now answer the question.
So locally, I think that we have had pretty good representation from Senator Gannon and Representative Dale Wright in Jefferson City. However, I do believe that there are details that could be worked out with other congressmen and women. So I believe representation from our school district is very important in Jefferson City. In fact, I believe we have some board members there attending this week who are there advocating for public education. Jamie mentioned school voucher programs and the attack that's going to have on public education. Without representation from local school boards up in Jefferson City, things are going to pass that are going to impact St. Genevieve, our two-school district. And we need to ensure that we have competent individuals on our board who are aware of legislative actions or inactions to ensure that public school remains funded and we can provide quality education for all children.
Brad Arnold, if you could now answer the question.
Sure, I think like with all boards, when you're elected or appointed, you become the representative, right? So as an elected official or an elected board member for our community, we become that representative for our community. So it's absolutely important for us to be the advocates, because if we're not doing it, then who is out there doing it for us, right? As a school, we have to be that person. We have to be that voice. We have to get to the root of all the issues, research them, understand them fully, and then push for the things that we believe are best for our school district to provide the best opportunity for everyone, not just particular groups of people. I think that that's the most important part of being an advocate, is looking at the big picture of things and how it's going to affect everyone. As Josh mentioned, there's things that are going on right now that's absolutely going to affect our school district and other school districts. And it takes people like board members to step up and be the representation for our entire community.
Jamie Ballew, if you could now answer this question.
Can you repeat the question?
Yes. Legislation establishes state policy for education. To what extent would you like to be involved in legislative activity? And what responsibilities do board members have regarding advocacy?
So I think we have a big role of advocacy. I don't think it's just at the state level. I think we also need to be advocates to our community as well, so they understand if we're asking for funds, if we're asking for a bond, why we're asking for it. I think we have to advocate why we need that fund, but at the state level as well, we have to be huge advocates for our school, because just like everyone else has said, when there is a House bill or a Senate bill going on, if they don't hear from our schools or hear from our boards, they're not going to know what our input is and how this is going to directly affect our school districts. And they may not, I won't say they won't care, but if they don't hear from us, they're not going to understand the direct impact it's going to have on our students and on our school, and how that is going to fully impact each child. And we need to make sure that they know how serious it is. So you, as a board member, you have to be an advocate completely for your school district.
On to our third question. The district has placed a no tax rate increase $20 million bond issue on the April 5th, 2022 ballot. Do you support or oppose Prop SG, and why? Joshua Gettinger, could you please begin this round of answers?
I fully support Prop SG. I believe the intentions are good. I believe all the ideas behind the proposition, building new childhood center, early childhood education center, gymnasium, weight room, those sort of capital projects are necessary for our school district. And I think the most important thing to remember is this is a no tax increase. I've read on social media people saying that the taxes are going to go down if this doesn't pass. That is absolutely not true. The tax rate will remain the same. This is just giving the school the ability to go out and essentially borrow $20 million to go out and build a better St. Genevieve community, a better R2 school district. And one thing to remember when it comes to Prop SG is it was mentioned in a prior question about the wholesome tax payments. Approximately $10 million is sitting in an escrow account right now waiting for Wholesome and Missouri Tax Commission to come to a settlement. Should that $10 million come to fruition, that's a large chunk of money that can be used to pay down this bond. What can happen after that? Several things. We could look at lowering tax rates. We could look at building additional infrastructure, hiring better staff, teaching, those sort of things. So I am fully in support of Prop SG, and I want to reiterate it is a no tax increase, and there will be no tax decrease if it does not pass.
Brad Arnold, if you could answer the question now.
Sure. I absolutely support Prop SG. As I mentioned earlier, I was part of the district level planning committee that spent almost 2 years going through everything that went into the final product that was Prop SG. There are a ton of things on this prop that impact so many different people in our community and in our school district. Things like security, safety, accessibility, aging facilities, and just being able to change how all those things make our school better. This is something that, as we just talked about, questions about advocacy, these are things that everybody in our community should be pushing for because it's going to make our school district better. And as Josh just mentioned, you know, it's a no tax increase, so it's not going to cost you any more, and you're not going to save anything if you don't allow it. So I mean, as a school board member and as a community member, I absolutely support Prop SG. I think it's something that has been multiple years in planning, and a lot of different people went into that planning process, from students to parents to staff, faculty. They all put their opinions in, and I believe that they came up with a great plan that will be very valuable to our district going forward.
Jamie Ballew, if you could now answer the question.
Sure. I fully support Prop SG. In fact, this evening at the PTO meeting, I heard the third time that I've heard it from Dr. Taylor, his explanation of it. One of the reasons that I fully support it is that it's not just benefiting the school district, it's actually benefiting the entire community. With building the Early Childhood Education Center, we have a huge need in our community for an early childhood education center. There are so many people looking for somewhere to place their child before kindergarten for early childhood education that it's just crazy. There are people calling daily, and there's nowhere to place your child. That is a huge need that our community needs. And also with the gymnasiums being built, those are facilities that our entire community can use. And it's not just our district being improved, but it's our entire community being improved. And since it is a no tax increase, I think it's just a complete win for our entire community. So I fully support it.
Larry Pfaff, if you could now answer the question.
Yes, I fully support Prop SG. There's a lot of areas in our district that needs improved. The gymnasium has been needed for years. When we're renting out the community center for our kids to go practice, it's hard as a taxpayer to think that we have to go to a community center and pay money for our kids to practice in the gym when we have gyms here, but they're always full. The weight room's been the same weight room since I went to school here. So 27 years, it has not changed. And with athletes today, the training that goes into being an athlete is tremendous compared to what it was when I was in school. The infrastructure itself, security, everything that this prop is bringing to this district and community is what this district needs. I fully support it 100%. The early childhood development building it's needed. It's been needed for years, and I'm just glad that the wheels are finally turning to get it on the ground finally. I was part of the athletic improvements committee whenever they first started to figure out what we needed to do for the school to see what improvements we could do. So I'm ready to see this prop make it through.
On to our fourth question. Please share your thoughts on how to provide quality education for a diverse student population. For example, students who use special education services, students who are differently abled, students who have cultural differences, students who utilize English as a second language, ESL services, students who perform in the average range academically, and students who utilize the gifted services. Brad Arnold, could you please begin this round of answers?
Sure. I think you touched on a lot of different subjects there on how we can provide for these students, and I think that this leads up to Prop SG is a great example of being able to have more space in the school, being able to have smaller classrooms, more interaction, not sharing classrooms with multiple teachers, having all these things available, because at the end of the day, we all know this, and I see it even in my own children. Every child's different. Every child learns differently. Some pick things up differently. Some have just, they can't function the same way as other students, and it's our role as a school to be able to provide every single one of those children an opportunity to succeed, however that needs to happen. And I think having the space to be able to do that is one of the ways to be able to get to that point, and being able to hire educators that can do those things in the environment that we provide as a school district is very important to all those students. At the end of the day, every kid should have an equal shot at being successful, and I think that as a school board and as a school district, we need to provide that for each and every student.
Jamie Ballew, if you could now answer the question.
Sure. I think when you're talking about having students with so many different, such diversity, is when you start looking at teachers who are highly qualified and are specialized. And you get into, we need to have awesome teachers, and we need to offer these teachers the opportunity to specialize, to have PD days to where they can get into working on different areas where they can specialize into, maybe somehow looking into, you know, if English isn't their second language, working on how they help a student that English, or I'm sorry, where English is their second language. How do they help a student with that? How do they help gifted students? How do they challenge a gifted student? What else can they bring into their classroom? How do they help special education students? What else can we bring to our teachers to help these kids, to challenge them or to make it easier for them? What can we do for our teachers to make their lives better, to help our kids when we have this range of students? And, you know, do we need other equipment in our classrooms? Or do we need, you know, what do our teachers need to help these kids? I think is what we need to look at.
Larry Pfaff, if you can now answer the question.
So the good thing about being a substitute, I get to see different classes. I get to see the different backgrounds of each kid. The SPED program is amazing. They try to get every child in that classroom to learn of some sort of curriculum for them. The STARS program, we're helping the kids that are a little bit behind and trying to get them up to speed to where we can put them back in a normal classroom. We as a Board of Education have to be able to provide for the students that don't have the ability to get an education anywhere else that we can. I mean, we got to provide that. We as a community are so diverse that we have kids. It's amazing the differences of children nowadays. When I went to school, it was not like that. But seeing it today, our teachers have their work cut out for them. And we have to be there to be able to support them and support our students to get the education to make them a better community member in the long run whenever they get finished with their school.
Joshua Gettinger, if you could now answer the question.
So I think inclusion and diversity of all students is very important, especially as a public education. I said my motto is, let's do right for every single child, and I believe that holds true here. So finding ways to adapt to the needs of other students and children who may not take a common approach to learning or instruction is very important. Jamie mentioned PD days. I do believe in Senate Bill 681, Larry had mentioned earlier, that there is going to be some additional funding provided from the state should this bill go into law, that's going to provide additional training for our teachers to be able to identify dyslexia earlier in children who can't read. Let's find ways to do that. So I think really working towards PD days and finding developmental opportunities for our teachers who are very highly qualified, have some of the highest educations in our local area here, but their plates are full. So let's find ways to assist them by professional development days, working with those sort of things. So ideally, I think we would find ways to enhance our offerings of SPED. SPED students require additional instruction, and just understanding their needs and including them is what's needed. And as humans, we grow best whenever inclusion and diversity is included. We learn from others, and I think that's important to remember.
On to our fifth question. What are your thoughts on the state's current MAP testing system versus transitioning to a system that provides better tracking of growth and progress over a school year, such as NWEA? Jamie Ballew, could you please begin this round of answers?
Sure. I would love the school to switch to the NWEA testing. I think that would be wonderful for the teachers and the students and, of course, the parents. Daniel, my son, who's in 3rd grade, currently does do the NWEA testing. We have one on our fridge right now that he did this past year. And it's great because we can see his growth from this year. And he will do another one in the spring, and we will be able to see currently his growth. Where the MAP testing that the state of Missouri is currently using is he will take that in the spring, and the school would get the results back next August, which is crazy because he will already have advanced to the next year and have a different teacher by the time those test results come back. It is not current enough information to help the students and the teachers. Whereas when they do the NWEA testing, they get those results back almost immediately, and the teachers can adjust their teachings to the students to help them advance and to see what areas they need to work on right there immediately and what they need help with. And they can show that to the parents, and the parents can see the test results and see what they can work on at home with their kids. It is so much better of a testing system, and I hope the state of Missouri transitions to the NWEA testing over the MAP.
Larry Pfaff, if you can now answer the question.
I'm going to agree with Jamie. NWEA is a better testing for all students where you can work on their weak areas and push them on their strong areas where they can be better and better themselves through that elementary education. MAP testing, I've never understood why you would test somebody in the spring of one year and not get the results of the following year. As a parent, if your child's deficient somewhere, I personally would love to be able to help that child. With map testing, you can't. In WEA, like Jamie said, that you get that instant feedback on what that teacher can work on, what the parent can work on. In WEA, it will hopefully be pushed through for the Missouri side of testing.
Joshua Gennier, if you could now answer the question.
I agree. Standardized testing, in my opinion, puts too much emphasis on memorization. I can attest when I was in high school 15 years ago, it was drilled in our heads, do this, do this, do this, do this, because that's how the map test is. So let's improve our map scores. Is that what was best for us as learners? I have serious doubts about that. In my professional career, I deal with data visualizations daily. That's what I do. And understanding getting the data right now is what's best going to serve our students. So let's find what are their weak areas, what are their strong areas, and let's focus on building that so we can build better students who can comprehend more and achieve higher academic skills.
Brad Arnold, if you could now answer the question.
Sure, I agree with a lot of what these guys are saying. I think when you're any kind of testing, like I mentioned earlier, every child's different. Everyone learns a little bit differently. When you're trying to use a standardized test and you're not getting immediate results from that test to be able to base what you're going to do next, that really challenges how you're going to educate someone. You know, we have the school district has a parents as teachers program. That starts at a very young age, and you do that with your kid. I did it with my kids. You know, when you have that program and you have that meeting, you know exactly where your kid fits in all those abilities, and you know exactly what you can work on to the next stage. And I think as students progress, there's no reason that we shouldn't be doing the exact same thing as soon as we can test their growth, because you can see when you're lagging behind and where you're lagging behind, and that's the things that you can improve upon. The idea of testing someone in the spring and getting the results in the fall after they've started the next school year doesn't seem like it's probably the best use of how we're actually testing our kids and providing, you know, answers for them in ways that we can really improve their education.
On to our sixth question. The St. Genevieve County R2 District has a long history of working collaboratively with the recognized bargaining unit, SGNEA. Each year, this group's representatives meet with district administration and 2 designated board representatives to discuss items of interest to both parties and to the benefit of improving our schools. These can include education and student-related topics, salaries and benefits, working conditions, board policy, and a variety of other concerns brought to SGNEA. If elected, would you welcome a role in this process in the future? Do you have a personal philosophy in this area? Larry Pfaff, could you please begin this round of answers?
I would definitely be willing to be part of that. We have to be able to be open with other organizations to improve our districts. Everybody's going to have input with the district, the SGNEA or SNEA. It's very important to involve that organization. So with the curriculum, salaries, benefits, we as a district have to be part of that. We have to improve upon that. We can't stay in the same position and improve our district. If we don't improve, our students don't improve. Teachers we're going to be stagnant, and they're not going to want to come to work and actually enjoy being here at this district. To be a part of the school board and represent the school, to be a part of the program itself is something that I've fought for a few years now. So anything to help the school district would be awesome.
Joshua Gettinger, if you can now answer the question.
Okay, for full disclosure, my wife is a member of St. Genevieve NEA, so there's that. And I realize some nepotism can happen. However, I have attended Missouri School Board Association's meetings. I've asked that question, hey, how does nepotism play into salary and benefits? My understanding was as long as I'm not voting to increase her pay individually, and I'm voting to increase a pay across the board, that's avoiding nepotism. So full disclosure there. In terms of negotiating with them and understanding what the NEA is asking, I know they're asking for increases in pay. I mentioned IEP meetings that are happening during teacher plan time. Those things need to be worked out. How are we going to facilitate those with the superintendents and the Board of Education? All that to say, yes, I definitely welcome it, but I do understand there's some ethical things behind that. To avoid nepotism, I definitely don't want to be doing that. So, but I'm cognizant of that and will ensure I step away from times when I don't need to be involved with those things. So, yes, I will be involved to the extent that I'm allowed to.
Brad Arnold, if you can now answer the question.
Sure. I think our involvement in that is important to the school district. I think anytime you start talking about your employees and creating a great work environment, it's important because ultimately that's what's going to make our school district successful. So I think that having that great work environment, understanding their needs and wants, and then how that works into our school district is an important thing. I think that we have to be advocates for anything that our teachers and our faculty want to be a part of. So I think, creating the best environment, best workplace is where we need to be, and if it involves being parts of those groups or other groups, I think that that's something that we need to at least hear out and as a board have a vision and a goal and do what we can do to try to meet those needs.
Jamie Ballew, if you can now answer the question.
I would be happy to be a part of that. I think as a board member and a board as a whole that we need to have a very strong relationship with SGNEA. We need to have a strong relationship with all of our faculty and staff. They need to be able to come to us with any problems or questions or concerns, and it needs to be a two-way street of being able to talk to each other and have great communication, facilitating back and forth.
On to our 7th question.
Yeah.
Open enrollment and the expansion of charter schools are two topics being discussed in the Missouri legislature. What are your positions on these two topics, and how do you foresee their implementation impacting public education?
Okay, my stance on charter schools and school voucher programs, not a big proponent, not a proponent of that. I believe that our local tax dollars should be spent on our local children here. We should not be competing with other school districts to bring children in and out of our school district. We should focus on the children in our own community. With school vouchers, I'm afraid it's going to turn into a privatization of public school systems where private people own schools and they can charter money into their school. And who's benefiting from that? It certainly is not the taxpayer. So why would we allow other schools, private schools, to get those tax dollars when there's no one monitoring that system? So I do not support charter schools, and I say that I believe parents have a choice. If they want to send their child to a private or parochial school, that is up to them. However, the tax dollars spent for public education should remain in public education.
Brad Arnold, if you could now answer the question.
Sure, I agree with what Josh is saying. Public funding is there and designed for our public schools. We welcome all students. That's why we receive the funding, because we take everyone. I believe we have great schools besides our public school in our community, and I'm sure there are outside of our community as well, but I think that the public school funding system was set up and put in place to be used on the public school district, and I believe that that's the way it should stay.
Jamie Ballew, if you could now answer the question.
Sure. I think there was two parts to that question. I'll hit on the charter schools first. I do not think any tax dollars should go to charter schools. I agree with Josh. If you want to send your child to a private school, that's great, but I don't think you should use tax dollars for it. As far as the open enrollment that's being talked about right now, I think that's a horrible bill that they're kicking around right now. It's going to pit schools against each other. tax dollars will go to one school but not the other, depending on where you reside and where you pick to go, and it looks like a big mess of a bill, and there's not a lot of planning going into it. So I think it's just, there hasn't been a lot of planning in it, and I think it's just a lot of schools will end up, if it goes through, competing for tax dollars, and that money should not go for recruitment. It needs to be spent on actually educating our students.
Larry Pfaff, if you can now answer the question.
On open enrollment, I don't think that should be allowed in our school district. It should be for our community. Like Jamie was saying, it's going to be a big mess, big issue funding-wise. So I am against any open enrollment. And then as for the charter schools vouchers system, I'm not a supporter of that either. The private schools in our area are good private schools, and if the community has a choice if they want to go to a public school or a private school, which is amazing. They also have the choice in their high school time frame for their students that there is programs at this public school that they can attend, whether they are in a private school or not. So we get the funding from the state for being a public school. Our funding should not be going to a private school because they are funded by the parents and the community, the kids that are going there.
On to our 8th question. What is your view on voucher programs that allow parents to use public funds to send their children to private schools? Brad Arnold, could you please begin this round of answers?
Sure. I believe that public school funding should stay at the public schools. I don't believe that those vouchers should go to private schools. I think that that's just the way that it's designed. People that want to use private schools, that's their prerogative. They have that choice. As a public school, we take everyone. We offer it to everyone. As Larry just mentioned, we offer programs for the students that do go to the private schools that they can come to our public school and use them. So I'm not a proponent to it, and I believe that public funding should remain in the public schools.
Jamie Ballew, if you can now answer the question.
I completely agree. Part of the problem with the voucher program is that there is no oversight with private schools. So if we send tax dollar money there, there's no one watching how that's being spent. There's no one doing any kind of testing to see how the students are doing. So there's no oversight to see what's happening with our tax dollars. And again, we have a great public school right here that you can send your kids to. And if you choose to send your children to a private school, we have some great private schools, and that's wonderful. You have the right to do that. You just don't need to use the tax dollars for that.
Larry Pfaff, if you can now answer the question.
As I said before, the voucher program is something that should not be used for private schools and take the funding for the public school, which provides classes and programs for a private school. And as Jamie said, we can't oversee that. As a board, the private school is going to do what they want with the money that they get from our tax dollars. Not saying they would misuse them, but we don't know what they're actually going to. We don't know about testing. We don't know where the students are going to land in, are progressing for the grade levels they're in. Vouchers is not a good fit for a public school or a community itself. We have to be able to know where our money is going and have a say on what we should do with it.
Joshua Gettinger, if you can now answer the question.
I am not in support of school voucher programs. I believe those tax dollars that are spent are paid to the public as we provide a service to anyone and every child in our area. Those dollars should be spent in our public school district. I believe school vouchers will lead to the privatization of public schooling, and there is no oversight, and that will lead to tumultuous things.
On to our question 9. What is your position in regard to both character education and social emotional learning in schools? Jamie Ballew, could you please begin this round of answers?
Can you say that first part again? I couldn't understand you.
What is your position in regard to both character education and social emotional learning in schools?
Oh, I think the character education and social emotional education are both big parts of school. You can't just do education, I shouldn't say that, book education. You need to have, our children need to be well-rounded little people to grow up to be well-rounded adults. They have to have every part. They need to be socialized. They need to have their own personalities, and that needs to come out at school too. They need to be able to express themselves, and they need to learn how to do that at school as well as at home. So they need to have different avenues to be able to do that. All that comes into play at school. So whether that comes into having teachers who are well educated, obviously we have that, and can help them express that in different ways, or have different means and different tools within the classroom to help them express themselves in different ways, or different materials. But we definitely need well-rounded children who are going to grow up to well-rounded adults. That's definitely, we need well-rounded people to come out of our school.
Larry Pfaff, if you can now answer the question.
Both are very important on the development of a child. Each child needs to be their own person and be able to promote themselves and try to be that individual to where they're not sheltered. I mean, you're going to have those kids that don't really want to do much in school. They just want to go to school and be done. Our teachers are great at bringing those students out more and getting them to open up more. That's giving them their social skills, which will make a well-rounded community member in the long run. We definitely, as a district, have to promote each individual character, which will, in turn, help with all their social, say, deficiencies with some students.
Joshua Gettinger, if you could now answer the question.
I think that character building is a large part of building a successful individual once they graduate high school and get out into the real world. I do believe we're making some good strides in our elementary buildings with the Leader in Me program. I know my wife can attest to that, the different skills that they develop between the groups. They will find children who have potentially a need for, like the Mighty Men group where, potentially missing a fatherhood figure in their life, or, just need additional mentoring there. Building those traits and characteristics of a mighty man it is going to go a long way. So I think from an elementary perspective, we're doing a good job with that. We have the right tools in place. And I think when you get to the middle school and high school, really connecting with those students, if you're a teacher or faculty and staff member, building out that relationship with those students is going to be invaluable. I still have relationships with some of my teachers from when I was in school, and they were very great people to me, mentors like. So I think character building is very important. The other part, social emotional skills, I think that we need to expand more with our social emotional offerings for our children. I was excited to see that St. Genevieve Elementary recently added a second counselor because the caseload of the one counselor we had was not nearly enough. So I think just building out those skills is great. I can say when I was in high school, I believe we had 2 counselors and 1 in middle school, so we've made some strides in that area too. But I think overall, we're on the right track, but work needs to be done.
Brad Arnold, if you can now answer the question.
Sure. Character building, social emotional, both these things, I think we can all attest to this. The last 2 years of our lives, the world changed, right? We all live in a different world than we lived in before the beginning of 2020. So I think these things are very important And when you really sit down and you put the math to it and you look at the amount of time that our children spend in school versus the amount of time we actually have them at home on a daily basis during the school year, school is more time than what we have to spend with them at home. And so that time has to be used to be able to build those character traits and social emotional stuff. It's very important. I see it in my job on a regular basis at the community center. We have a lot of first-time workers, first job they've ever had. And you see the variance from green to experienced and knowing that they've had those other things that have taught them in school. But really the joy that you see is when you get that person that you can tell is struggling, and then that moment, that aha moment when they finally realized that they can do these things and they don't have to be you know, held back internally. And I think a lot of that builds from their experiences in the school. So I think it's very important, and we have to do everything we can for our students in that aspect.
On to our 10th question. What should be the relationship of curricular and extracurricular activities in school programming? Larry Pfaff, could you please begin this round of answers?
Well, to have a student athlete, you have to be the student first. So the curriculum needs to be accomplished first. If you don't have the grades, you don't do the extracurricular activities. Being band or being after school, anything, sports. We as Board of Education, we as community, we as parents, teachers, we should strive for our students to be better students first before we strive them to be better athletes in any other extracurricular activities they do. Just band, vocal, play production, all of it. You have to be able to have your children put in 100% at school so they can put 100% in the other activities that they do. If there is students out there that struggle, and it is our job as the Board of Education and staff to assist those students to get through the best they can with as good as great as they can to go ahead and perform to their best ability.
Joshua Gettinger, if you could now answer the question.
I agree. I believe that students, the purpose of a public education is to provide simply that, education, curriculum to them. But I don't want to downplay the fact that extracurricular activities do provide character building to students, provides them an outlet to be who they are, what they want to be. Practical arts, fine arts, those sort of things, even sports, provide children an outlet to grow as a person, build meaningful relationships. So I think it's important. But I am a firm believer that grades should come first and foremost. If you can't achieve those grades, I would hope that there are faculty and staff, and I have confidence in our district that there is, that is willing to connect with those students and let's find a way to get your grades up. Because you want to participate in band, you want to go out for the football squad, you want to run for track. Let's find a way to get it done. But I do believe curriculum should come first, but I don't want to downplay the fact that extracurricular activities build character and teach our athletes and musicians and the like the necessary skills to build a good reputation and understanding of what team building is.
Brad Arnold, if you could now answer the question.
Yeah, I agree with both of kind of what they've said on this subject. I think it's a needs and wants things. You need your education. That's your first and top priority. You have to do the education part first. But the extracurricular allows you to build the extra, right? That's why we call it that. It's the other things that every person has to find their place. And if they're able to find that in an extracurricular activity, that may then in turn encourage them to do better in everything else that they're doing, perform better, knowing that the participation in that hinges upon that education first. You know, I spent some time as a student athlete in school and in college as well. And at the end of the day, you're there to learn that your education is first. But extracurricular is, in my opinion, is a part of all of that. So I think it's important to have both and to have the opportunity to do both. But like I said, it's a needs and a wants thing. You need to have that education first.
Jamie Ballew, if you could now answer the question.
I think extracurriculars are important, but I have to agree that school comes first. You're here for an education. That needs to be top priority, but I have to agree that the extracurricular is where you're going to build some character. You're going to build some responsibility about, having to get there on time or having to practice. So you need both of. If you choose, you do both, and I think that helps build the responsibilities in there. But ultimately, your education needs to come first, and then hopefully you learn to balance both, so you can build extra character for it.
On to our 11th question. How would you handle requests and or concerns if approached by an individual or special interest group? Joshua Gettinger, could you please begin this round of answers?
Sure. So if I'm approached by an individual or special interest group with a complaint to the Board of Education, I think the most important thing is to do is to listen. Listen to their concern, try to understand where they're coming from. Don't just take an approach. And once they're able to voice their concerns, go back as a Board of Education, not just an individual, and discuss this topic. Find ways to, if it's a complaint against say a teacher, or if it's a complaint against an administrator, let's find ways to monitor the situation, but we can't be playing Big Brother. So we have to place trust in our administrators for their job of what they're doing. But I do believe the biggest concern would be, or the biggest aspect would be, just listen. Learn to listen to people. Understand there's differences of opinions. There's different rights and wrongs in people's eyes. But at the end of the day, as long as you're here to advocate for your public students, that's the main thing to remember.
Brad Arnold, if you could now answer the question.
Sure. I believe a lot of what Josh said, it's listening and it's understanding. You need to gather all the information. I'm not a big proponent of hearing and making a decision immediately. I like to be able to research, talk about an issue, discuss it as a group. As a board member, you are one of a group. Individually, we don't make any decisions, and sometimes we may be the dissenting vote, but at the end of the day, once we do make a decision, we have to stand by it as a group. So I think the important part is being able to hear people out and understand why they have that complaint or why they have that concern, and then be able to formulate a response as a group as to why we've decided what we've decided. But there also is a chain of command that needs to be followed. I don't believe that every complaint should go straight to the school board. I think that it's important, if you need to start at that point, to have that conversation, but if it's an issue that can be handled by someone else in the district prior to us having to act on it, I think that's where you start. And if you don't get the type of response or the resolution or the time in that process, then I believe it gets to the school board, and then it's something that we as a group have to take care of. But I do believe that it comes down to listening and understanding concerns, and then understanding that how you act on it may not be what they want, but you have to be able to explain and make them understand your stance.
Jamie Ballew, if you can now answer this question.
Sure. I first would fully listen to the complaint, concern, or the interest group, understand what it is they are wanting or needing, and then guide them to the correct channel, whether that be a teacher, the principal, the superintendent, or the Board of Education as a whole at the next board meeting, because I would be just one board member of 7, and I ultimately cannot make any kind of decision on my own. So I can't give them any kind of resolution on my own. So if it is something that would go towards the board, it would have to go in front of the entire board, not just myself.
Larry Pfaff, if you can now answer the question.
Well, depending on what the issue is, and as everybody has stated, we are only one board member. The decision as a board is made as the board. My opinion on an issue could be different than the other 6. whatever's answered, whatever's voted on and approved by the board, we support. I would let them know that we'll look into the issue. If they haven't done the proper chain at the time, I would suggest starting with where the issue started, possibly the teacher, principal, start at the school that it started, and then go from there. If that's something that they could do, we'll follow through that as a board itself. We can't make decisions on our own, and people need to realize that this is a board and we're not individual parties.
On to our 12th question. What do you see as our district's educational strengths? And what do you see as areas of improvement? Brad Arnold, could you please begin this round of answers?
Sure, I think our district has a lot of strengths. We have a beautiful school. Same time, there's a weakness there, right? We need to upgrade security. We need to upgrade aging facilities. We have to stay current with technology and all those types of things. But also, I think we have a great diversity of programs that are offered, electives, extracurricular. Our school has an amazing list of things available for our students. So often, I hear about not only our school district, but our community as a whole, that there's nothing that ever happens in St. Genevieve. And I think people that say that are making no effort to try and look to see what's actually happening in our community. We have an amazing community. We have an amazing school. And I think all those opportunities are here. You just got to want to do it, right? But I believe another strength we have is our staff. And we have to make sure that as things change and have changed in the last 2 years, keeping that staff and keeping those people happy and keeping the work environment that they have, one that they want to be a part of, is very important for our school district.
Jamie Ballew, if you can now answer the question.
Sure. I have to agree with Brad. I think one of our great strengths is our amazing teachers and our staff, how much they care, how much they put into all of their students, all of our students we have here, all of their time and effort that we have. One of the things I think we need to look at improving or continuing on is how we compensate them and how we retain them, and making sure that we are competitive with that. Looking to see how we can make their lives easier or better in the classroom, and possibly outside of it. And then another thing we need to look at as improving is how do we then also recruit incoming staff to make sure that they want to come here and want to teach here. Whether that be PD days, encouraging continuing education, the benefits we offer, the starting pay we offer, or increasing the pay that they currently make. That all things we need to look at. Another great strength we have are the programs that we offer our students, the different high school programs we offer and middle school programs, where they can test out the different industries that they could possibly go into for their careers.
Larry Pfaff, if you can now answer the question.
Strengths of our district is definitely the staff, the support staff, the teachers, the students. What we offer our students are well above what it was whenever I was in school. We as a district have grown drastically 27 years since I've graduated. We offer Scholar Bowls. We have a team that the middle school just won. The high school is doing well. We have programs for students of every kind to try to get them to improve as a person itself. Things that we can work on is retaining the staff that we have. If you've noticed, we have lost a few decent teachers, owing reasoning, but stuff that we could do as a district to see what we could do to retain the staff. and better our benefits and pay if possible. Financially, we just have to look at everything in general to see what we can do to improve our district. With the Prop SG, that's a step closer to what we should be doing.
Joshua Gettinger, if you can now answer the question.
Sure. So I'll start with the weaknesses. So I think one of the biggest weaknesses that we have, and that was evident in one of the school board meetings recently, was some of our ELA scores. I think that there's recognition there, so there's going to be an emphasis placed on that sort of thing. Let's get those ELA scores. It kind of resorts back to, reading at a younger age, improving those sort of things. Another thing I think that can use support, I hear this from my wife daily, the amount of stress placed on our educators is astronomical and growing. Her plan times are not spent doing lesson plans. Her plan times are spent contacting parents and having IEP meetings for those students who need those sort of things. And just the overall stressors of being an educator and not being properly compensated for those sort of things. So I think there's some work to be done there. Some strengths we have. We're very diverse in our offerings, and it brings me joy that we are continuously evaluating those things. It was recently announced that we're going to add in a second ag teacher and remove an industrial tech position because of the demand from students. So we are forward thinking, and that's good to know. I think one of our biggest support systems is our community. We all, we bleed green. We love our school, and we're very proud of it, and we love to do the best we can. We're very financially sound. We have the ability to borrow $20 million and still be financially sound, even without the wholesome tax dollars. Would that be great? Absolutely, but we're still financially sound. And most of all, our school board, faculty, and staff are some of the best in the area, and we should be very proud of them.
On to the 13th question. What have you done to become informed about our district in order to prepare for your possible election to the school board? Jamie Ballew, could you please begin this round of answers?
Sure. So as I said in my opening statement, so anyone who doesn't know, I ran for school board last year. I decided in December of 2020 to run. Once I decided to run, I started attending every school board meeting. I have made every school board, regular school board, and every special school board meeting except for two. One we were out of town, and one my son had broken his arm. So I've done that. I frequently talk to a few of the current school board meetings about different topics going on in school. I've become more active in the community just to kind of stay up to date with what's going on. I am, as I said, treasurer of the parent-teacher organization at the St. John Elementary. I try to stay up to date with what's going on our school and what just is going on with as far as education by going on to the Missouri School Board Association's social media pages and the Missouri Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, so DESE's social media pages, and trying to stay up with the current legislation, which is getting tricky because there's a lot going on right now, and bills keep changing and keep getting edited, so that's always fun to try to keep up with all of that. So just doing a lot of things with just trying to stay active with the community and the school board as a whole.
Larry Pfaff, if you could now answer the question.
This will be the fourth time I've ran for school board. Each time I've been against incumbents, and we all know how hard it is to get an incumbent out. It's not that I wanted them out of the position, but I wanted to get in the position so I can make a change for the school. I have currently two. I had three at the time prior to last year. I've been a president of the Bloomsdale PTO. I've always been involved with my kids' activities through all the school. I've coached in the community constantly. I subbed. That is one of the greatest pleasures to see the difference, even as a sub, of what you can do for the children of the district. When the kids ask I know this isn't good, when the kids ask their teacher if I'm coming back to sub, it makes me feel good because I know I'm making a difference in the students. So I really enjoy being a part of the school district, and I want to see it grow further than it is now.
Joshua Gettinger, if you could now answer the question.
So yeah, it's living with a teacher. It's relatively easy to stay apprised of what's going on in the school district. But beyond that, I've attended a couple board meetings. I usually catch up on YouTube, to be honest with you. Love that feature, love that it's available. I can put the kids to bed and watch a board meeting. My wife thinks I'm crazy, but hey, that's what it's all about. I have several family members who are involved in the school district here. My sister-in-law actually is a finance coordinator. I have cousins who are teachers as well. We have family gatherings, we get together, we get to know each other. You know, this is what we think is going on, this is how we could do things better. Much like Jamie, she's mentioned a couple of the social media pages. I like to also follow the Missouri NEA and the the MSTA, I'm sorry. They provide legislative updates in their stances on different bills that are being proposed inside of the Missouri Congress, essentially. So that kind of provides me some insight as to what's going on in Missouri, so we know what we can expect as a public education. I formed a good relationship with a board member. They provided me some mentorship, and you know, they're always happy to answer questions for me. I think that's very important, building relationships with those people who you will be serving with. And I'm very involved with the school and their athletics. You won't find many bigger high school football fans than yours truly. So just all around, I've always been a big fan, proponent of St. Genevieve R2 School District, and you know, just literally bleed green.
Brad Arnold, if you can now answer the question.
So again, as I said earlier, this really started for me with the Facilities Planning Committee. Sitting through those meetings, getting the opportunity to talk to students and parents and community members. For me, personally, this is one of those things when I start something, I really like to see it through to the finish. And I feel like over the process of that planning and what it evolved into Prop SG, I want to be a part of that going forward, because I know that that plan isn't just a 1 year or a 5 year, but it's a 10, 15 year process. And I believe that the group that we had there has come up with a great plan, and it can evolve and it's flexible as the future comes and things change. But to me, a plan is only as good as its execution. So I feel like being able to be part of that is very important to me. And I knew that having this opportunity, that I would be upset with myself had I not tried to be a part of that process as it happens over the course of the future. And you know, with my job being at the community center, seeing the students, our workers, their parents, all the youth activities that we have, adult activities, I just get to interact with community members and people from outside the community a lot. And what we always hear is we have amazing stuff in our community, and being able to be a part of that would be really special to me.
On to the 14th question. Do you believe the school board members should be involved in the day-to-day administrative decisions of the school district, or would you prefer to be involved in policy decisions and the hiring of capable administrators, leaving management to those in these positions? Larry Pfaff, if you could now answer the question.
Well, the school board is elected to oversee the superintendent of the school district. The school board is also in position to implement policies for the school district. We as school board members should not be overseeing the daily operations of the school. That is why we hire a superintendent, an assistant superintendent, and administrators throughout the school district. That is not our job. Our job is to oversee policies and to ensure that the budget is being followed, and to make sure the students in the districts are getting the allocations or the allocated funds that they deserve.
Joshua Gettinger, if you could now answer the question.
So the role of the Board of Education should be strictly to hire a superintendent who should oversee the day-to-day operations of the school district. A Board of Education should not be there to oversee the operations of a school district. The board should be established to create policies that better enhance our children's education and our faculty and staff, equipping them with the tools and resources, and like Larry mentioned, overseeing the budget. So A board member should not be overseeing day-to-day operations, but rather should be hiring a superintendent to do so.
Brett Arnold, if you can now answer the question.
Yeah, I agree with both of what these guys have said. You know, day-to-day operations as a board, that shouldn't be your concern, nor something that we as a board would do. We have a superintendent that we put in place to be able to do that. I think as a board, our role serves as creating that vision and those goals for the district that then the superintendent puts in place. So, I mean, in terms of day-to-day, that's not something that we should concern ourselves with, while it is important to hear staff reports and administrator reports that give us an update on those things. Actually overseeing and being part of day-to-day operations is not the role a Board of Education serves.
Jamie Ballew, if you can now answer the question.
All three are correct. The school board is to set policies to achieve the vision of our district. We are not there to micromanage the teachers or the administration. We are not there to sit in a classroom and observe you and watch you and tell you what you're doing wrong. We are there to set the policies. The superintendent is there to operate the district, not the school board.
We will now move on to closing statements. Please share any other information you would like SGR2 employees and community members to know about you. Candidates will answer in reverse ballot order. Brad Arnold, please share with us your closing statements.
Sure. I know that this is the part where I'm supposed to pitch myself, right, and tell you guys all to vote for me. But I would like to share something that just personally for myself. When I think back to being a student here in the school district, especially at a young age, I think that I took a lot of things for granted because I was just unaware. I hadn't been in other schools. I was a kid. I didn't talk to many people that lived in other school districts, but as I progressed through school with academics and athletics, having the opportunity to visit other schools and see what other schools had, I very quickly realized what special things we had in St. Genevieve. And that continued all the way through middle school and high school. We have an amazing school district. We have teachers that I still have relationships with now. And I think to my kids, the two that are in school now and the third that'll be there in kindergarten in a couple of years, and I just want them to have that same opportunity as they go through our school and make them aware of how special this school and this community is. And I just think it's really important for them and for our future, because everything starts at the foundation, and honestly, our kids are our future. So we have to do everything we can as a school board and as a school in general, school district, to be able to do that for them. And if I get to be a part of that on this board, I would be honored. I appreciate it.
Joshua Gettinger, please share with us your closing remarks.
Yeah, so in my introduction, I mentioned the 3 pillars to a successful public education. The first one was understanding the needs of our children. The second was supporting our remarkable faculty and staff. And the last thing was ensuring that our tax dollars are being allocated in a proper manner. One thing that was not touched upon in the meeting here was the Wholesome tax bill. My understanding is Wholesome has paid a $17 million tax bill, of which $13.5 belongs to the R2 school district. We've only received $3.5 million of that, while $10 million is held in escrow. And of course, I can go through the appeals process, which will last several years, or could potentially last several years. That's a large influx of money that we are out. And one thing to remember is, as a school district, we've already paid approximately $80,000 in legal fees just to fight this. So I think that we as a community need to take a stand and understand that we need to put our children first. So to do that, I feel like we need to make sure that our tax dollars are being properly used. And I don't know that I agree with Wholesome, but should we see this influx of $10 million over the next several years, there are several things we can do to improve our schools and our facilities. I urge everyone to vote yes on Prop SG. It's going to improve the lives of our students, our community members, faculty, staff, everyone from top to bottom. And I really appreciate everyone's time and attention, and I would appreciate your vote on April 5th. Thank you.
Larry Pfaff, please share with us your closing statement.
Kind of like Brad said, we're here to promote ourselves. We, as hopefully future school board members, I think any one of our two of these four that are sitting up here be doing an outstanding job for our school district. We have to ensure that, like Josh said, the money goes to the right places. Wholesome could be tied up to actually up to, I believe it's 10 years. And spending that kind of money each year on lawyer fees and that for the school district, we have two separate budgets right now. One that includes the wholesome money and one that doesn't. We're going to keep, the school district itself is going to move forward with the one that doesn't until we have that influx of cash in the future, hopefully. We as a school board have to ensure that our students that they're going to have every opportunity to succeed in life in general and prepare them for their future, not just in St. Genevieve, but outside St. Genevieve also.
Jamie Ballew, if you would like to now give us your closing statement.
Sure. The major reason, or the major influence for me running is Matt and I's son, Daniel. As a family, we've had an incredibly positive experience at St. Genevieve Elementary since he started kindergarten in 2018. Daniel's teachers have pushed him to work harder and become a better student and a better person. And I think every student and family should have the same exceptional experience. I believe students' well-being and education should come first. As a board member, I will help ensure all students receive an equal opportunity to receive a quality education. With Daniel attending school, I have daily hands-on interaction with the school district and a unique perspective as a parent of a current student. I believe this connection with the school district is something board members should have. I believe our students deserve high-quality teachers who are compensated with well-deserving pay and benefits. We have a great school district that we can make even better. I want to be a part of making this school district, making it even better. I would appreciate your vote on April 5th. Thank you.
And that concludes the spotlight on the candidates Q&A. On April 5th, 2022, registered voters in the St. Genevieve County R2 School District will have the opportunity to vote for two candidates to fill two open positions. Board members serve rotating 3-year terms with no term limits. Thank you all for your participation and have a good evening.